Yeah, I'm having a pretty bad one today. Yeah, I have this like trigger reflex, which is obviously PTSD, where every time I talk about, not that I get to discuss it very often, like with another person, but even when I do, it always comes back to like a mental health source. And for a very, very long time into this abuse, because it's 21 months now, with no support, or support that starts and then falters out, and then quite often get betrayed, possibly simply just by misunderstandings, people who aren't trained in trauma, or who aren't trained in picking, picking the difference between the abused and the abuser and that kind of thing. Or whatever it is, I have not had anyone by my side. I've got my GP, but she caused me quite an injury by declining to sign the statement, which she's qualified to do, among including like social workers and other such people, to sign off my family violence certificate thing to as part of my tenancy withdrawal. And she said, I hope you understand why. I mean, this was over a very impersonal email sent through reception, and I reply, no, I don't understand. How can I possibly understand? Like, that was horrible, like fucking horrible. Like, all it said was, I have good reason to believe that Caitlin has been a victim of family violence, and it was with Mitchell, and she said she wouldn't do it. So I really feel like I've got, I don't have any allies, and then I get into these states sometimes, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, what the fuck, like, it just, like, the reality hits me again, and I'm just like, what the fuck, it's just, it's unbelievable. And as I say, like, for most of the abuse, I still managed to retain a very cheerful mood, but I'm in quite a lot of psychic pain a lot of the time now. It's getting quite difficult to bear, and it's awful having to say that, because then everyone comes in and goes, yeah, I told you it was a mental health problem. And it's like they think that I can ring like the suicide helpline, or talk to a mental health nurse, or talk to a counsellor. It's like, I literally don't have time to talk to a counsellor. I had a counsellor lined up, and I was on his waiting list for ages, and it's actually like quite a lot of effort to do counselling. It's a big time and energy focus, and I'm in the middle of my problems now, and having to get someone up to speed with it, when, I mean, basically I've got more pressing matters to attend to. And counsellors, if they're not trained in trauma and how to listen properly without making assumptions or making suggestions, just do so much more damage, and nobody understands that. And again, as I've said, it's nobody's fault for not understanding it. I didn't either, but this is the world that I'm in. And one good thing about me is that at least when someone's going, seriously, can you just listen? Can you just stop assuming? Can you just listen? Like, when people beg me to do that, like, I will, whereas nobody in my life is willing to do that. Everybody just denies what I'm saying, and just dishes more abuse on me for being difficult. It's like, I'm like so badly damaged, and there's been such a long time, and I don't see any kind of hope in the future. And all this bullshit, like, people just think, oh, just get through this. It's like, there is no getting through this. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Do you think getting out of one situation, I'm just moving into I'm just getting deeper into the fire. And yeah, again, like, unless I find some fucking miraculous, like, organisation, I just, you know, the only options in my future are doom, and the best of the doom options is death. Um, and that's not a mental health problem, that's like, I cannot be kidnapped by the police again and then just be disappeared, because I came very close to being disappeared last time if that representative from court hadn't come down. And the thing is that she was a forensics nurse. Now, I'm only saying she was a forensics nurse. I don't know why, just because that's how she introduced herself. She's not a forensics nurse picked for me because I need a forensics nurse. Like, a forensics nurse is a nurse who deals with sort of dangerously ill, mentally ill people, dangerously mentally ill people. She just happened to be in the courtroom because that's where you're most likely to need a forensics nurse, you know, as the judge goes through each sort of hearing. If someone goes, you know, I don't have to explain any further. So it wasn't like they were like, have a range of nurses in the courtroom and they're like, which of these 20 nurses should we pick to talk to Caitlin? It's just like she was the only person who had anything approaching the time to, because the courthouse is really just, well, they say you know, she said I've come downstairs, and I guess it is just upstairs. Yeah, it is actually just upstairs from the cells. So she just came down to just check on me, and you know, as I said, so yeah, no, it's not that she was picked because she was a forensics nurse. I wouldn't be in emergency accommodation if I needed a forensics nurse. They do screening. My case manager screened me carefully, and she spoke to courts in front of me after I gave permission for all my information to be shared about my charges and everything. And she had no worries about that, and you know, and I have great concerns about finding a home. You know, even if I didn't have absolutely no ability to do that, I said I don't think anyone's going to want to have someone who's on bail, and she just says, well, the kinds of charges you're on are not of any kind of concern to, you know, there wouldn't be anything that would affect a landlord's risk. And I take it that she knows what she's talking about because that's her job, but I also think that why would they pick someone who's on bail when they could pick someone who's not on bail, you know? And I did look at a lovely little place out in the middle of near Cashmere Hills, or around near Cashmere Hills, wherever it was, and it was like really perfect, and but I didn't get picked for it. But she said, you know, if I had another one, I would have given it to you, because I disclosed everything to her. And yeah, my case manager says, she says, Caitlin, you've got to stop disclosing all this straight up when you apply for places. She says, just wait till you get there, have a look, get to know them, and then tell them. Because I like just straight up tell people, yeah, I'm on bail, and I have these references, but not recent, because I've been criminally abused by two landlords in a row, and yeah, it doesn't, it's not the best marketing strategy ever devised. I don't think it's a kind of Saatchi and Saatchi sort of technique. Anyway, having this laugh, I always calm down a bit when I talk on my phone, and I forget that because it's quite a good strategy, because I've been really panicking, and I've gone over, okay, take 3 clonazepam daily. That's what it is. It is not. It's funny how many people think that PRN means, this is something in Hillmorton, people would go, I need a PRN, and they thought that PRN stood for lorazepam. It's like, no, PRN just means take when needed, you know. But I take mine, I did have it BD, and then I had it, I can't remember the other one. I think they said it was QID, although that indicates, to me that it feels like 4, but anyway, whatever. And yeah, like I'm happy just rambling. Not rambling, but I mean I'm not happy, but it's just like I'm really trying to push those. It is true, like when people keep telling you things about yourself and horrible things, it really does sort of get in, and it inhibits your behaviour and what you say. And I have to keep reminding myself, ignorant people telling me that I'm wrong or mistaken or ignorant or paranoid or incompetent or whatever, or difficult, I've just got to get those voices out of my head and just say what the fucking truth is. So, so 5 arrests. Now the first arrest, like they, at least the first arrest, so I've spent the night in the cells twice. And the first arrest, they didn't give me my meds at all, which is not okay, because it's very highly necessary, especially the benzos, like those are holding me to fucking together. And I don't, like when you're on benzos for a very long time, which I've been on, like way over a year, like a year and a half, if not more, which is just how it has to be. All the experts have agreed it's a sad fact and it's going to be a nightmare coming off them, but this is unfortunately necessary. It's a necessary evil. And yeah, at this stage, like you don't get a, they're not like, you don't get a buzz, you just like fucking can't, like you just sort of calm down a bit, and I haven't managed to today yet. And I need to go out for a walk, but I'm so fucking terrified of the police just fucking grabbing me. And the thing is that I don't want to go. I can't. What police are doing to me is actually terrorism, and what it is just making you totally insecure all the time, like you never know when they're going to turn up, and I think that's what their strategy is. And like CIA, these kinds of things were strategies from the CIA, sort of psychological torture strategies for, I suppose, spies or whatever. I mean, the ethics are debatable using them against the enemy, but those were very well known sort of tactics, like these psyops or whatever it is. So it's not paranoia. These are they've been procedure. There are literal, like you can go on the internet and find these declassified CIA documents about how to psychologically torture like a whomever they want to get information out of or control. And that's what New Zealand police are doing to me. They're just making sure that at any moment, I am aware that at any moment someone can bash on the door and arrest me for nothing, not tell me what it's for, not show me any evidence, and then release me without any evidence and say, well, if you want evidence, ask the courts. And then, and I've asked IR for information about the arrest on the 5th, my arrest on the 15th, and IR's come back and said, we don't have any records of that. And it's like, well, that's gaslighting, because they know that I know. And it's just like taunting me, really. I mean, to start with, I was just like, oh, don't bother lying to me. And then I'm realising, well, they don't expect me to believe it. That's the point. They know that they have the control over that information, and they always go complain to the Office of the Privacy Commission. It's like, that it's just the worst. Like the office, it's just our Privacy Act is just the worst, fucking most abusable and abused piece of legislation. So, because I haven't been charged, and because my or because the charge wasn't, well, I was charged. I don't understand the terminology completely, but I was charged. But the I think the first time the same fucking person who arrested me for the same threatening Lauren didn't fucking happen, and honestly it's this time I can prove that it didn't happen because she's referring to a document in which I immediately said, as I think I said in the previous video, immediately said, don't get excited coppers, it's a metaphor. So it's just, you know, I am slow in the uptake, but when I do get the uptake, then I'm like, oh, okay, right, that's what's happened, and then I'm completely familiar. I'm in completely familiar territory, and I know what's going on. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if anyone's listened to the phone calls that were given to me by IR before I asked her closing ranks, and now it looks like there's police officers who are answering, and the last one was just a badge number, and it's like, I see, so they've muscled in on the civilian staff, and now they've taken over the information that I have access to, and they're closing off access, so they're literally denying that I was arrested. When I have a recording of the arrest, and it was in the Papanui police station, so there's really no escaping it, and I don't think they have any intention of it being believed, but I think by the time that, you know, I would be able to prove whomever it is that could possibly help me with it, it would just be like yesterday's news, and they'd be like, oh, well, that was just a mistake or something. But you know, like, I really do understand how this stuff works now, and it doesn't, they can lie blatantly, and it's not about, their lies are not intended to be believed. Their lies are just a way of telling you, they're just a code for you have no power here. And yeah, so I mean, the terrorizing is working. So I got PTSD, and one of the things that I have PTSD from is people bashing on my door. And my family were doing that to me with totally cognizant that I absolutely hated it and just totally disregarded my opinions over my well-being, because obviously they knew better. The property managers were doing it, fucking mental health were doing it, police were doing it, and I was just like, this is my fucking trigger from abuse by Bobby Zarafakis in Wellington, and banging on my door, like, even if I know, you know, like, even if it's a friendly person, my body's already gone. Like, it's just you just get into that state, and it just has to run its course, and running its course can be quite dangerous. Now, I've had an MRI recently, and it has yet to be interpreted for me in a way that is much use, and it may be that it won't be, but what I do know from what I've read is that just from little snippets, is that it's you know, I think my stroke risk is doubled. Now, I don't know what my existing stroke risk is, so that may not be as dramatic as it sounds, but because I don't know what my stroke risk is, and I'm 46, and I've been under severe stress non-stop for 21 months, I would say that yeah, I would say that I would say that I probably, you know, could quite easily have a stroke within the next few weeks or months, and whether or not I'd survive it, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And so when I go into the cells, and it's weirdly enough, every time I get arrested, it's like my meds picking up the day, because I you know, tried to kill myself with meds in January. I get them dispensed weekly, now fortnight. I've graduated to fortnightly, but that's a crossover from one pharmacy to another, and I've still got to run the old course, and funnily enough, it always seems to be like meds day. And even if the meds day changes slightly, because my schedule might change and I have to come a day earlier, a day later, whatever it is, like police always seem to arrest me on a day that at least one of them can go to the pharmacy and pick up my meds, which is a really good look for me in the pharmacy, but at least my meds are available. Because this bitch wouldn't let me get my meds the other day. She wouldn't let me get my shoes. She wouldn't let me get fucking anything, my wallet, nothing. And luckily a really nice mental health nurse on the, like, eventually I got to speak to her, and the thing, see what the thing is like, every time they nab me, and it's been 5 times now, and I've asked for my meds, and they initially say, yes, we'll get you a nurse to talk to when we get in there, and then when I actually ask to speak to a nurse, they say, oh, well, I'll ask, I can't guarantee. It's like every single time it's just lies. And I've never seen a nurse, and I've needed to. But this time I said to them, I was really, really firm, and I said, I have a heightened stroke risk. If you don't get me my benzodiazepines, I could have a fucking stroke, and that's going to be on your watch. And that's, like, police do not give a flying fuck about me, but what they do care about is having me clearly have a very serious freak out event that leads to very severe injury or death on their watch, because they know they have a duty of care to me, and they have no intention of enacting that duty of care to me unless they think that their asses are on the line. So I did get my meds reasonably quickly, but they didn't give me the right amount, and they're reading off the labels, and it's cops going reading off the labels, and I said I need 2 of these now and 2 of these, and they're like, no, it says take 1 4 times a day, and I'm like, that doesn't. I'm not saying anything different than what's on the label. I'm saying that pharmacists can't write a fucking novel on the label. They just say 4 times a day. But it doesn't mean 4 evenly spaced. Like, it doesn't mean evenly spaced throughout the day. It's like they just can't get it through their fucking skulls that 3 times a day clonazepam does not mean evenly spaced. You don't take clonazepam 3 times a day evenly spaced, because it's designed to be long acting. It lasts for 8 hours. So it's why it's usually people will have it BD, because that will last for a good most of the day, most of the whole day, and I was on BD, and that wasn't enough coverage during the day. It's not that I didn't have enough coverage time-wise, it's that I didn't have enough intensity of coverage, so my GP added a 3rd clonazepam to be taken with the first one, so I had 2 in the morning and then 1 at about lunchtime. You wouldn't bother taking 1 any later than that. And trying to explain that to a fucking cop with an attitude is just impossible. He's like, I'm reading off the label, I'm showing you the label, I'm reading it to you. And I'm like, thanks Einstein, but I'm the one who's prescribed them. I think I know more about what this label means than you do. And he's like, I can't give you anything that's not on the label. And I'm saying, I'm not asking you to, I'm just asking you to listen to me about what so many times a day means. It doesn't mean what you assume it means. Would you please listen to me? And they just won't. So I had to explain it to this nurse, who's a mental health nurse, and she understands completely. So she went and she said, I'll do my absolute best, because she was going off at 11, and this was sort of about 8 o'clock, and she said, I'll do my absolute best to make sure that the nurse, the police staff and the nurse in the next shift understand, so you can get the coverage for the morning, because in the morning is the you see your lawyer, and then you see the magistrate or the judge or whatever in court over Tellylink, and it's like, it's quite important, because they don't give you coffee, which is absolutely, I mean, I think that's unspeakable, really. As I've said, I mean, you're just putting people at a really weak, you're putting them at their worst, really. I mean, functioning without coffee, which is just totally normal drink to have in the morning, and it's a drug, and it's a highly addictive drug, and it has very bad withdrawal symptoms, and whatever we think about that, it is just the fact of life, and so police are just dicks. And so if I can't have a coffee, then I need the correct dose of my meds in the morning, so at least I can function. And the thing is that I have two kinds of Ritalin. One is long acting, and the other one is so it's sustained release, and the other one's immediate release. And so I have 4 sustained release during the day up until about, I mean, the latest I would ever leave it is 4 o'clock, but really it should be done by 2, and even then that's pushing it. And then in the evening I have 20 mgs of the short acting, which helps me sleep and just takes me through the night. And it is absolutely fucking retarded to give me for slow sustained release Ritalin evenly spaced through the day, because then what are you going to do when it comes to the fucking evening, and I'm supposed to be on this immediate release. And so at home, the reason that they gave me the 10 mg tabs, I could take 40 mgs of the sustained release Ritalin, but I metabolize medications really quickly, so like most adults will be on 40 mgs of immediate release Ritalin, and they'll just take all of that 40 mgs in the morning, and that will last them through the day. And then they may have, depending if they're like me and it helps them sleep, not all people with ADHD, you know, it can cause insomnia for some people with ADHD, but for me it totally cured my insomnia, except for lately, because now I'm on Zopiclone, because there's only so much, you know, a girl can take. It's like I ended up taking, like, they're so uncooperative, they are so rude, they are so nasty and mean-spirited, and they just won't listen. And I was in this ridiculous situation where I had to take in the evening one slow release, one sustained release Ritalin, and then 2 immediate release Ritalin at 7 o'clock, and it's like, this is preposterous, this is way too much. But if I don't take what I'm given, then you know, like, you just have to work with their retarded fucking pig ignorance and nasty fucking attitudes. And yeah, doesn't just 4 times a day does not mean evenly spaced. It's like, I wish people would just read what's there, not interpret what's there through their fucking retarded, you know, assumptions. Like, anyway. And they ended up just, you know, really withholding the amount of medication I needed, because at home I was, you know, the reason that I was given the instead of 2 20 mg sustained release, I'm given 4 10 mg, and that doesn't mean, you know, I won't necessarily take those evenly spaced until 2. It just might mean that I just lag like an hour between 10 and then another 10, just because I don't want a big rush of an onset, because then that doesn't feel great. I mean, maybe if you're at a party, but not for, you know, trying to get your day started. And then the offset is brutal, because then it just drops me like a stone, and then I'm like a zombie, you know. And it's just like, it's just another form of sort of torturing somebody pharmaceutically, you know. But the reason I decided to, the reason I wanted to add a bit more to the cell story, I've slipped my mind. But it was something kind of related to that. yeah, it was something kind of related to that, but yeah, no, they can get away with pretty much anything when you're in the cells, and that's really, really frightening to me. And they'll always justify it, by saying you're nasty or whatever. But yeah, so this was my attempt to die of sepsis. I was quite proud of my efforts, but I'm very surprised it didn't work. I did try to get a UTI, and that was fucking disgusting. And I drank toilet water with shit mixed into it as well, because I was thinking I'm just trying to get a really broad spectrum kind of Klebsiella infection here, because I didn't particularly care to be alive in the morning. And fucking nothing happened. I can't fucking believe it. So yeah, I've got bruises because sawing away at my arm to cut the skin enough with not very sharp serrated cardboard was not very fun. So I've got a bruise, and then I literally just put like a face mask of poo on top of it, and it was stinging, and I was like, okay, that makes me feel it's going to get into my bloodstream. But a few days later, and it hasn't, so I guess that's failed. But it's certainly what I would say, I feel like I'm Thomas Edison, who says, there's no such, when he's making the light bulb, let's just forget it, Tesla for a minute, but he said, each failure, he says it's not a failure, it's just that I've just learned a different way to not make a light bulb. And so each attempt that I make, and when I talk about my suicide attempts, I sort of talk about them being two, but actually it's very hard to really quantify them, because a lot of them are just, they're not dramatic single events, aside from the pill, trying to get an interaction from the pills. And they're not, I do not know how to kill a person. I don't know how to kill a person. I don't want to kill a person. I don't want to kill anybody. If I had to kill anybody, it would be me. And in this particular case, it is me. And so, yes, I've been firing out a lot of emails to all kinds of police addresses and IPCA and district court. No one's going to do anything, but the thing is that I just want it to get enough coverage, including the Chief Coroner's Office. I just want enough coverage so that when I do die, then suddenly the wheels can start moving and everyone can go, oh, how can we stop people falling through the gaps? She's only been asking everybody on the face of the planet for 21 months for help. How could we have foreseen this tragedy? So at this stage, I do not want to go out into the public until I have something quite deadly on me, just in case. And for police, it's like, if you just stop harassing me, then I won't do it. And so what's happening with this Jules, whom I gave a chance to sort of understand and to do the right thing. It doesn't look like she's going to. It looks like what she's been doing to me is deliberate. She's said to me, if you talk about suicide on social media posts or whatever, you are going to get a welfare check. And so I'm making it very, very clear to everyone across the board with witnesses, for when someone does give a shit, no one's going to give a shit about me until I'm dead, because that's not how every life matters in New Zealand. Every life matters in New Zealand only if someone dies. Before they die, their life isn't precious at all. So I'm just trying to make it really, really clear to police that the only reason at the moment that I would kill myself is if police do a welfare check on me, or if they come to arrest me, or any other fucking bullshit. There is no reason to arrest me, and even if there was a reason to arrest me, you don't have to terrorise me during the fucking process. And so I've just made it clear that any cop who knocks on my door, I'm not hesitating. I'm gonna make sure that, I talked about this quite a lot last year and earlier this year about how I wasn't, that I was prepared to do things to my body that I never imagined I would, and it turned out that I wasn't really. But after drinking poo water, I feel like, oh God, it was so gross, especially the dregs. It was so disgusting. I was like, I can't believe I didn't get gastroenteritis or something. I can't fucking believe it. How can anyone drink poo, and it wouldn't have been just my poo? How on earth am I? What the fuck am I not immunocompromised? Is someone fucking pulling my leg? Yeah, I think that if I can do that, then I can probably down some Dettol, or bleach, or other, I think I'm just so over it at this point. I mean, terrorism is torture, and I have this motel room, and the mess is, as I've said before, it's just me trying to get organised because I've got a storage unit now, and I'm just trying to I've roughly sorted things, and now I'm trying to more finely sort things to think about what my skeleton kit is here, and then what can go into storage. Because the thing is that if police do come and kidnap me again, and make no mistake, it is kidnapping, I want to have everything pretty safe and sound locked away in my storage unit. The same thing is as if I don't feel safe here, and this should be a place that I feel safe, and instead police have just used this. Police are now taken over from my landlords, terrorising me. And I'm just jumping at every sound, and I don't know where to put my ring cam to see who's outside. I feel really insecure, and it's agonising sometimes. And the thing is that if the agony, I got quite agonised today, and it was almost like I almost feel like I'm just, this is sort of a gradient, like a graded sort of, I feel like I'm almost matching the gradient where it's hard to explain what I mean, but I feel like I've almost merged into the level where my life is no longer of any interest or value to me. I'm not there yet, I'm not, but I know that I've got the chops for it, because taking those actions to infect myself, and expecting to die or to spark a likely death from bacterial poisoning, I know that I've got the chops for it, and I know that I can swallow some a toxic dose of something, and it's not going to be nice, but I feel like that's just where it has to go. And I what I want police to do, because what police do is they're just silent, like they are fucking abusers. They're just silent, and the only time I ever hear from them is they come and bang on my door. And they've banged on my door twice since I've been here. They've tracked me down. Bang, 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 nice welfare check, not. And then bang, 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 hello, what is it? You're under arrest. Alright, here we go again. It's like, okay, so we're having a pattern now, and I don't feel safe here anymore. And the thing is that I had to talk to the motel manager when I got back from the cells the other day, and I was really upset. And because they'd kicked me out, as I said, with, they just gave me like my stuff, including my meds, which were in little containers. They just stuff in my holding my arms, like, and I'm wearing socks, and it's not very warm, and I don't have my wallet, and they just said that's not our problem, and it's like it fucking is your problem, and I'm just like I get into problem solving mode, and I'm like, well, what are my solutions? And my solutions were to walk to Papanui, and I walked frequently to St Albans from the city because sometimes I couldn't find the bus stop. It was just, I could more easily find my way walking. But I can't walk to to Papanui, which is 2 suburbs over, in fucking socks, holding the stuff. It was just like, oh my God, and I was just like, what the fuck am I going to do? Just be so abused by people who don't understand that you don't get to treat everyone like a piece of shit. Like, that's not the spirit of holding people in cells, treating you like shit. And I understand from people who have been in prison that you're treated better in prison. And I was really considering saying to the judge that I don't want to be remanded on bail again. I really don't. I actually would quite like to be remanded into custody where it's prison, I believe. Because at least I'm going to be like safe, and police are not going to keep fucking hammering my door down like, there's another jurisdiction, it's corrections, not police, and I feel like there's going to be a bit more stability. I really was thinking that, and I was thinking there's no way that I can go back to my motel. I can't do this to the managers, I can't do this to the other customers here, like I'm just a liability. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just a target for police, and police don't give a shit about the welfare of anyone here. They don't give a shit about the welfare of fucking anybody. And I just realised that I can't be somewhere where I'm causing damage to the business or to other people's sense of security. As I said, we're all vulnerable, and a very, being homeless is a fucking horrible fucking thing. And, there are so many kids here, and I've got no complaints about the motel. I really like my unit, but it's not the place that you can do your best parenting work. It's just not. It's just totally unacceptable of police. It's absolutely atrocious behaviour by police, and so I did chase down Jace pretty immediately. Like, that was the first thing I was going to do even before I went in the house, and I was just like, did you know I've been arrested? And she said no, and I'm like, yeah, they turned up yesterday, there were like 6 of them, and she's like, well, what did you get arrested for? And I'm like, well, supposedly breach of bail for these 2 things, but I didn't do them. And like, it's really hard to explain to someone who doesn't understand the process. And I only understand a little bit of the process, and it's just like I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. Like, I'm really not a fucking criminal. I'm just being targeted by the police. And anyway, I said, don't answer now. I just wanted to tell you. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. Like, if you can't have me here anymore, and I said, don't decide now. Just have a think about it, and talk to my case manager if she wanted to, because she has obviously a business relationship with MSD. Anyway, next day she came back to me and she said she and her partner said, they're happy to have me here as long as there aren't complaints from other guests. And I'm like, well, that's just a razor's edge. I mean, that's just the sword hanging. That's the sword hanging above my head. I don't know when it's going to happen, so I feel like I've got to be prepared to go. I just feel like I've got to be prepared to go. And if I can't get to safety before, the thing is that's what I'm going to do. Like, if I can't put any safety measures in place to stop police terrorising me, then I'm just gonna have to die. And I don't want to do that here. I don't want to do that to the managers. It's not cool. It is not fucking cool at all. But if police are willing to do that to them and to me and to the other people who have to deal with that, and it's going to be a horrible thing for the business. It's going to be, awful for fucking everybody. If police want to do that, then I'm making it very clear to police, this is your doing. Now, if you ever ever deploy a welfare check on me again, and that is an act of harassment. By the time they get in, I will be dead. So I want to make sure that Jules understands that her threats, because they are threats, will lead to my death, and her name is going to be on the hit contract. Yeah. And I'm very serious about it. I'm not living like this anymore. And the thing is that even if they don't bang on my door, I don't feel safe. So what I'd really like police to do is just, I don't know if anyone in police has the fucking moral integrity to do such a thing, but to get in touch with me and say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. And because I did say in a complaint earlier today, I said, if you really can't resist the urge to arrest me, can we please do it through an intermediary? I said I've never resisted arrest. I fucking waited at Papanui Station for about half an hour for the unit to come and arrest me. Like there is no need for the, as I say, the Pablo Escobar kind of approach. It's like, I'm not going to go on the fucking lam, for fuck's sake. Just if you really need to arrest me, then why don't we set up an intermediary and then I can go to Papanui Station and whatever. It's just like, stop fucking terrorising me and stop fucking shitting in my nest and ruining things for everybody else. Yeah, so I've been extremely in very, very, very deep pain today. I've been extremely upset. I've been almost more upset than I can cope with, and I've said that before, but it's got worse. And I just, I can't even tell that to anybody, because all I get is all talk to mental health, and it's like, I don't need to talk to mental health. I need the terrorism to stop. Then I will feel a lot better. That would be great. And as I've said before, if someone's being eaten alive by a bear, you don't start getting them psychiatric counselling. You get the bear off them, and then they start to feel a little bit better, without having big chunks bitten out of their fucking intestines, And then you can start doing the rehab. But I don't have fucking time to talk to a mental health person. The last thing I need to do is struggle to fucking communicate to the 5 millionth fucking person what's going on and have them arguing with me about what's happening. I need help, not fucking, I don't need to talk to somebody. I need someone by my side, fucking in between me and the fucking terrorists, the fucking demons who are just tag teaming me to total breakdown. No, I feel a bit, I feel better as you're talking to myself, and I'm just trying to get my place tidied up a bit, but I'm really just helpless. And I have the ACC claim, and I can get help around the home, as I've said, and I still don't know how to access that, and I really, really need this help. I need this help. They can help me get food. They can, and I don't know how to access it. Like, there's so many things I need to do, and I don't know how to do any of them. Yeah, I just can't believe this is fucking happening, Yeah, anyway, I've got chest pains, so I am pretty, I really hate to say it, but I'm quite worried about my heart. Certainly having a quick death is welcome, but that's not necessarily what is going to happen. And It's still quite scary if it happened, right? So, yeah. Anyway, I mean, these videos are mostly for me, but it makes me feel better posting them, and then all my non-supporters can watch and analyse and see what to do next. You know, how to get away with torturing me a bit more. And if anyone fucking supports me, then fucking say so, you know? But anyway,